Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Applez, and today I'm going to talk about Donald Trump and his natal chart. Donald Trump is probably one of the most important figures as of today because he is the president of the United States, and even in the past he used to be a really powerful businessman, and so knowing about him and his chart is probably a really important thing. And that's why I'm going to talk about him today. So the first part that I want to talk about with his chart is his ascendant sign. His rising is in the sign Leo, and as we all know, Leo is a very extroverted and it's a very kingly kind of sign. And when you look at Donald Trump's character, first of all, he's a billionaire, so it makes sense that he has Leo rising. And number two, there's a lot of attention on his hair, and it's kind of funny because Leo is a sign that's often noticed for hair, and it makes so much sense that he would have a Leo rising. You would think that he would have a Leo sun, but a Leo rising has a lot to do more with appearance and a lot more to do with hair and all of that other stuff that has to do with Leo. The other thing about his rising sign is that it's also conjunct Mars, and Mars represents the masculine and the strength in our chart, and obviously it's conjunct his ascendant, and it's clearly seen in his personality and who he is. He's a very go-getting kind of person. I mean, he's a businessman. It makes a lot of sense that he would have Mars conjunct his ascendant. But what's even more interesting is that his rising and his Mars are both conjunct the fixed star Regulus. And a lot of astrologers talk about this in Trump because, Regulus is so clearly seen in his chart. But Regulus is the fixed star that has a lot to do with honors and riches. Looking at Donald Trump, you can see clearly that he's made plenty of money and he's been in a powerful position for pretty much his entire life. And so it would make sense that he would have the fixed star conjunct his ascendant. When Regulus is conjuncting anything important, like the sun, the rising, the midheaven, anything along those lines, the person is usually supposed to experience great wealth and power. But a very negative sign with fixed stars like Regulus is that they usually lose this power, and usually it's seen in a very negative way. These people don't hold on to their riches, and that's unfortunate. And looking at Donald Trump's presidency, there's a lot of mixed opinions going on, but it's clear that Donald Trump isn't favored by most people in the United States. And in fact, looking at the left, they're saying things like killing him. And with Regulus, that is seen in like, if you want to predict Donald Trump's future, he may die in the future from something like this. It will be a very great death. Like, it'll attract a lot of attention, and it will be pretty insane. And an example of this in the past is Louis XVI. And Louis XVI had his Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury all conjunct Regulus. And knowing from his history, he died from the guillotine because he didn't lead his country the way he was supposed to. Donald Trump may tread in the same footsteps as Louis XVI. But, who knows? And it's really interesting because Louis XVI was had a wife, Marie Antoinette, and she was a Scorpio. Hillary Clinton was also a Scorpio. I don't know if that means anything, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, the fixed star Regulus is really, really important in Donald Trump's chart, and you should never miss that. The next thing about his chart that's really, really important is his 10th house. In his 10th house, he has Sun, the North Node, and Uranus in Gemini in the 10th house. And this makes a lot of sense. People who have their Sun in the 10th house are very focused on reputation. They're very focused on, things like their career and making money and achieving power. This is because the 10th house is the Capricorn house, and Capricorn is focused on these kinds of things. You can tell that there's a lot of energy being put into the 10th house. If it was just the sun in the 10th house, yeah, it would be strong, but it wouldn't be as strong. But with the North Node there, that means there's like a destiny. There's like he has to achieve this 10th house area, because in his past life there has been a lot of focus on 4th house things, which is like home and being more introverted, and now in this life he's focusing more on his reputation. And with Uranus there, you can tell that a lot of the things he's done regarding his career and reputation has been kind of on a whim, like kind of just going for it and hoping for the best. And it's a lot of it is just intuitive, because Uranus is a very intuitive planet. You would think Neptune or maybe Jupiter would be, but Uranus is that, you know, very like lightning kind of thinking and just going on it. And it would make sense that someone like Donald Trump would spend his time as a businessman and then just run for president one day, just because why the hell not? And he's also a Gemini. And as we all know, Geminis are talkers. I mean, if you listen to Donald Trump talk, he says a lot of stuff that's kind of just there. He talks really well, and he's good at expressing something. In fact, I watched a video on YouTube that talked about the different languages of people in politics, and I'll have to link in the description if I find it, but it showed all of the different leaders, and Donald Trump's language was a 6th grader kind of language. It was the easiest language to understand. I just think that's really interesting. And when you look at Donald Trump's Mercury, to even understand his language even more, it's in Cancer. So he speaks from the heart. You know, he gives you that feeling when he talks. I was watching a video of him talking to people in the army and veterans, and, you know, it sounded like he really did care, because Mercury in Cancer is a very emotional kind of thinking. It's not a very logical kind of thinking. It's very emotional. We also see Mercury is being squared by Neptune in Libra. And what this means is that Donald Trump is a liar. And some people may not like to hear that, but a lot of the stuff that Donald Trump says is over exaggerated. It's said in a way that appeals to people, but a lot of it is just false and not really real stuff, because Mercury Neptune people are really good storytellers, they're really good explainers, but they're not very good at giving clear logical facts. And, you know, especially in Libra, right? When this aspect is between Cancer and Libra, it's definitely an aspect that's meant to manipulate and get people on your side. It's no wonder Donald Trump is a salesman, especially since he has Leo rising. This is how he's created a lot of his money. You know, he's a very public figure. He talks a lot to communities of people with Mercury in the 11th house, and then that Neptune in the 2nd house is what brings him a lot of money. Speaking of his 2nd house, he also has Jupiter there. This makes a lot of sense, because when you have Jupiter in the 2nd house, there's a tendency, well, Jupiter in any house, Jupiter has a tendency to inflate a lot of stuff. It makes things bigger than they actually are. And in the 2nd house, he has inflated wealth. Also, what's really interesting is that he has Chiron conjunct his Jupiter. And when you have Chiron conjunct your Jupiter, what that basically means is that he may have gotten really lucky and then he lost it all. I mean, he has Chiron in the 2nd house, and this can explain his 4 bankruptcies. You know, he's gotten really wealthy and then he's gone bankrupt and then he got really wealthy again. You know, wherever Chiron is, there's always like a weakness there that can never really be healed. So that's really interesting. He also has Moon opposite the Sun, and his Moon is in Sagittarius. He definitely gives off that Sagittarius vibe. His Moon is in a very driven sign. It's a very positive sign. It's a sign that looks up and, you know, wants good things to happen. You can definitely see that in Donald Trump. And with this opposition, it's basically saying that Donald Trump may have gone through many periods in his life where he wasn't sure what he wanted to do, or maybe, you know, what he needed wasn't what he wanted. And so there's a lot of, you know, issues there. And also the South Node is conjunct the Moon, and when South Node is conjunct the Moon, there's a tendency to lack or avoid emotions or feelings or anything among that nature. And I'm not really saying that he's like a psychopath or anything, but there is a trend among people like that to have Moon conjunct the South Node. To talk more about his sun, he also has Jupiter trine his sun, which makes a lot of sense. He's a confident guy, and in many ways he's considered arrogant and narcissistic, and that can totally be explained with Jupiter trine his sun. In fact, a lot of really arrogant people have sun in aspect to Jupiter. Last but not least, a very interesting part in his chart is that he has Saturn and Venus both conjunct in Cancer. And when you have Venus conjunct Saturn, I think this is what makes Donald Trump really seem narcissistic and full of himself, is because Venus represents our self-esteem. It also represents our relationships. It represents pleasures in life. And with Saturn there, it basically means that this person lacks love. They're not really given love. They're not given any kind of reward. They're always being pushed down by other people, and they're constantly bombarded with things that attack the self-esteem. You know, Venus can also represent money, and with Saturn there, it can represent fighting for money or needing money or something along that nature. But it's just really interesting that he has Saturn conjunct Venus, because you can tell that a lot of the stuff that he does is either to prove himself to other people or to be better than other people, to help fill up that negative self-esteem that he probably feels. To top it off, one thing that's just really cool, he has his MC in Taurus. Your midheaven or your MC represents kind of what you're known for. It makes a lot of sense that his MC is in Taurus because he is a billionaire. He's known for his riches and his accumulation of material possessions. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked my interpretation of Donald Trump's chart. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, just subscribe, and if you like the video, leave a like. Thank you.